Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mac and Chuck Show. Tonight we'll be discussing the JFK conspiracy with recurring guest host, Nick Drago.
Nice explosion at the end.
Yeah, isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, dude.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Chuck Show. We got a great show for you tonight. Scott?
Really big show?
It's a great show. Is it a good show? It's a damn good show.
It's huge.
It's huge, huge. Well, I want to start the show off tonight welcoming everybody back to the Mac and Chuck Show. We definitely appreciate you guys being here tonight. And I see my lovely mother is watching. Fantastic. She made the show. Glad to have you on board. I am going to put a chat link in here. So if you guys feel inclined to join the show later on, please do. For the beginning of the show, I'm actually going to turn it over to Mac. He's got a couple things to share with us. And Mac, with that being said, I'm going to let it, it's all you, baby.
It's all eyes on me.
All eyes on you.
We're going to start off the show this way. It's going to be a little somber, and there's going to be a lot of segues. So, it's going to be like the news where, you put your head down, look at another camera, and everything changes. Chuck and I lost a very dear friend this week. Someone who was always quick with a smile, you just felt warm when you're around this person, and the world's a much darker place because she's no longer here. Anna Parks, or if you knew her as Anna Farmer, we lost her on Tuesday. I'm actually friends with her husband. I've known her husband since I started at Blue Cross in 1999. That's where I met him. And actually, I was privy to join both of them at a Christmas party where they met in 2000, I think, give or take. I can't quite remember. I think it was. Maybe it was even 99. I'm not certain. But you want to talk about a terrific person, loved by all, always volunteering. So many band pictures I saw on her Facebook page. Chuck, I think you would agree with that.
Yeah.
Band mom, all around great mom, great wife to Doug, just a great friend, and she'll be really missed. But I would also be remiss if I didn't mention something that was very near and dear to her heart that her and I talked about on numerous occasions, which was Empathy, which is a peer group from the high school all three of us went to. And also, Anna, I got the warm fuzzy in your memory. And Chuck, if you wouldn't mind kind of, since you know better than I do, kind of explaining what that really means.
Yeah, sure. So when we were in high school and Empathy, we would go on these retreats. And let me explain first, I guess, what Empathy was and is still to a lot of us. Empathy was kind of one of those peer helper groups that was based on that a young person is more apt to go speak to another young person as opposed to an adult, because there was always a sense of, I guess, mistrust for adults. And so Empathy was a group where we could all come together, we could be ourselves, and we could just kind of like share with one another. We could do life with one another. And it was a very important part of my life and Scott's life. And, Anna was a very integral part in that. And so in this group, though, we would go on retreats. And on a couple of retreats, we actually made these little yarn necklace, and they look like just a bunch of yarn to the normal person. But what these are actually they were called warm fuzzies. And, so when we say that we're going to give someone a warm fuzzy or something like that, it was really a way for us to take one of these, just a strand, and give it to a friend, just let them know that they were cared for.
You're all right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a way to show that you meant something special to someone else.
And to let you collect yourself for a minute, that just goes to show you 30 plus years later how powerful of a group it really was. That still draws that kind of emotion from people when they talk about it. The leadership was, I can't say enough about the leadership when Chuck and I were there.
Jack Hogg, Mike Johnson, Marty Payer. I mean, and
Right.
the multitude of teachers that were involved in this was just amazing.
lifelong friends we still have to this day because of it. I mean, and you mentioned the retreats. I mean, those then and of themselves were, I guess the best way I could describe it is otherworldly, maybe, just in the presence and the emotion that was shared, the just the powerfulness of the links that really drew each other together and still
Mhm.
do.
It was really a way to escape the stress of being a teenager and to kind of be who you were. And, not only that, but we learned how to help our other, peers as well. And, again, Anna was always, she was always right there. She was always a great friend. And, I don't know that I ever saw Anna without a smile
No.
on her face. And that went well into our adulthood.
Hmm.
Even I think my most recent interaction with Anna was actually maybe a couple of years ago at the Light of Abbey Foundation. And she was just so dedicated to making that event, everything that she could, and giving to other people. And it was just, it was an amazing experience, even just with her then. And, I mean, her passing is just, while I can't say I was as close of friends as her at this age, I still considered her a very dear friend.
Hmm.
And, when we had heard of her passing, it was like a shot to the gut. I mean, there's really no other way to say that, because as we get older, we know that more and more of our friends are going to, leave us. And but to have a light like Anna snuffed out like it it was just it's heartbreaking.
Hmm. And I don't think I could add more to that than just you always hear of people close, actually people close to you passing away, but nothing as powerful as that. I mean, because it really hit me Tuesday. I really had to step away for a minute and recollect myself. Um, and it didn't surprise me, but I was really, I guess, shocked. Not really the right word. More surprised, maybe. Um, but I was really taken aback, and it really affected me, and it still does, to know that someone that great is no longer with us, and trying to come to terms with that's really hard for me, because since we work together on two different places, and we're if anybody knows Anna, she would always walk to you, hey dude, and it was like Chuck said, you just couldn't help but laugh and be joyous. I mean, and like I said before, the world's a darker place now because of it, but heaven gained an angel, and that's all I can say.
All right. And I got nothing to add on to that, because I think you pretty much wrapped it up. You know, if you want to here on the show, feel more than welcome in the right hand side of the chat box to share a memory with Anna, or to give some support and love to her family. Um, I think Mac, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but any memorials or tributes to Anna can be made to the American Liver Society.
That's my
Am I correct in
understanding.
that?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in her name. And again, Anna Farmer, Anna Parks, we're gonna miss you.
Hmm.
So I think with that being said, Mac, unless you've got something else to add on to it.
Is this the part where we look in the other camera and continue on?
Right.
Um,
So hold on.
you went on a
Okay,
trip
there we
this
go.
week, didn't you?
What's that?
Did you go on a trip this week? I noticed the lid you got on your head.
I did. Many of you may notice the Universal Studios Hollywood hat that I have on.
Who'd you steal that from?
So, I actually got this from Universal Studios Hollywood. I know,
Oh,
right? So I got to give a big shout out to my buddy Chris Madden. I've known this guy since junior high, and it's very important I say junior high on this, because during the trip, I made the mistake of saying just high school, a couple of
did you get
times, and
corrected?
I was corrected many times. So I do have to say, Chris, thank you so much for bringing me on the trip with you. And here's the really crazy thing about this: it was an all expenses paid trip for he and I both. And the way that he had won this, and is that the scratch offs that the
Hmm.
lottery scratch offs, sometimes those have second chance drawings, right? And he actually, took a chance, took a second chance, sent that information, and they contacted him. And I mean, he won the trip, for a chance to win, an additional $1 million. Now, I won't tell you how much he won. I will say it wasn't $1 million, but the guy did not walk away a loser. So, but however, the lady who did win the $1 million was sitting at the table with us. So that
Did
was
you
kind
get
of
a new
cool.
friend out of that? Hi,
You know,
friend.
it was funny, but I mean, it was a great trip. We went to Universal Studios on Saturday. Friday night, first of all, these people took really great care of us. We stayed in a great hotel. Airfare was paid for. Everything was paid for. We did not like. I think we had to pay for like maybe 2 meals. Um, our buddy John Miller, he did meet us down there, which was kind of nice. We got to hang out with him for a couple of days. But Saturday we did the backstage tour at Universal Studios. I'll get it out in a minute. And let me tell you something. When I get the pictures done, I'll post a couple up in one of our future shows. But I don't know what this cost on the normal, but it was worth every penny of it. I will tell you, I will never spend that much money, but it was worth every penny, that whatever it cost. We got to get out and walk around on some of the sets, such as War of the Worlds, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, NBC show called The Good Place. Got to walk around the set, a Big Fat Liar, a little bit. So I mean, it was just really cool to do that. And then we were able to ride Jurassic World, which was a really cool ride. And then on Sunday we did like a big tour of LA, and then we ended up down on Santa Monica Boulevard, and on Santa Monica Pier, and it was just really really amazing. The sunset that I saw, and I got great pictures of that also. Um, then we had Mac. Did you know that Los Angeles has tar pits?
Yes, yes, I did.
I did not know this, and we got to get up close and personal with the tar pits. And let me tell you, it doesn't smell all that great.
Mm-mm.
But I mean, it was kind of cool. Then we went to the Peterson Car Museum, which was really cool because they had the James Bond car collection there, and it was just like, I mean, super cool. They had the ones that were they had wrecked for shows and to stay with continuity in the series or in the movie. Just a really great trip. And then Monday we flew back, and I mean, it was just really amazing. And I had to get a hat. I've got the collection of hats, so I had to get a Universal Studios hat. So, but yeah, it was a really great trip. Had a really great time there. Again, Chris, thank you so much. Definitely appreciate you bringing me along on that trip.
Now, didn't something happen to you while you were there that we talked about yesterday?
Oh yeah, I was going to kind of leave that one out, but
Oh,
so here's the thing: Hollywood is nasty. I mean, there's really no way to get around it. Hollywood's nasty. LA's nasty. So when you get to Hollywood, I'm going to tell you right now, if you've never been and you want to go, it's definitely not the dream that you think it's going to be. It's kind of grody. There are scammers all over, people trying to get money out of you, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell them no. So and I'm just going to tell you my experience because I don't want to give Chris's secrets away. But we had some guys, walk up to us and put CDs in our hands, telling us how great they were to check out their music and things like that. And then they were like, oh yeah, yeah, I mean, just show some love. Can you show some love? And and I'm like, okay. So I've got 3 CDs in my hand, and all the guys are there together, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, all right, I'll give them $20, right? It's $20, and I'll be done. Well, I didn't have any cash, right? And so the guy's like, oh no, we take Venmo, man, we take Venmo, and I'm like, okay. And then he like whips out his phone and like shows me his scan QR. Are you familiar with Venmo?
yes.
Okay, so he whips out his QR code for me to scan. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, all right. So, I shot him $20, and his friend walks up to us, and his friend walks up, and he's like, oh man, I give you a CD too. I gave you a CD too. So can you hit me up for $20? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, that 20 was for like all of you because I thought, and then he just kept on and on and on and on. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll give you $10. Well, then his buddy shows up whose CD's there, and I'm like, and I'm trying to get him down to like 5, right? And he's just like, no, here, I'll autograph it for. I mean, so yes, these guys are out there hustling and everything, and I get what they're trying to do, but here's a tip: if you ever go to LA, hands in your pockets, head down, and move forward to wherever it is you're going, because and don't take pictures with the characters either. They will get pissed off if you don't give them any money when you take a picture with them. Cell phone, and I'm telling you, they got some raggedy looking outfits also. I mean, Spider Man was all dirty and he had a backpack on, and I mean, it was really something else. It was an
Okay, then.
experience for sure. Um, LA was on my bucket list to go to. I went. I'm done. I don't need to go back to LA.
And he's done.
Yeah. So now I'm going to Long Beach in January with work. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's a little further south of LA and a little bit of a different environment. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, Here's another neat little thing that you might want to know. If you go to LA for an extended period of time, either make sure that you're either vaccinated, and I'm not telling you to get it, I'm not telling you not to get it. But if you want to eat for right now in any restaurant there, you have to be vaccinated or you have to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours. It is $1,000 fine to the restaurant owner if you're sitting in their restaurant and don't have one of the two. So either get a whole lot of takeout or be prepared to get, your nose swabbed a lot and be prepared to, show your vaccination card. It was vaccination card and ID. It was quite an interesting experience. So that's just kind of a heads up, neither here nor there, but a heads up if you're ever going to LA.
All right. Now, kind of you had some quick promotional stuff before we get to Nick. Then I had one segment that I want to throw in that we talked about, kind of what we call the random thought of the week.
Yeah. So we promised you guys a new show. And so what Mac and I did was we just kind of took some time to reflect on the past year, which we've been going for a little over a year now. So yay, us. And we want to thank you guys because, we wouldn't keep doing a show if we didn't have people watching. So, thank you. We appreciate that. And so what we've done is we just kind of evaluated what we've done in the past, whether it's been just talking through and BSing our way through a show, or whether it's just been, not preparing for a show, or even some of the segments that we had in the show, or lack of structure. And so what we've done is we've actually sat down and met a couple times, and we're going to be, offering more structure in the show. We are going to be offering more guests that come on the show. We have a recurring guest that will be with us tonight, actually, and he'll be with us every second Sunday. Why do I do that?
I don't
Every
know.
second Sunday of the month, and that's Mr. Nick Drago. And I've been friends with Nick for a very long time, and Nick is a great guy, and like he has a whole lot to offer our listeners and our viewers, and a whole lot of experience just in life. And so we're very excited to be welcoming him aboard tonight and moving forward. And something else that we're looking at is we're not going to start begging for money or anything like that, but we do want to let you know that the show it costs a little bit of money for us to run. However, we're not going to make this a please give us money kind of show. What we are going to do though is offer sponsorship opportunities and segment sponsorship opportunities if you want. And they're going to be very reasonable. We're really just looking to cover our cost here. We're not looking to get rich or anything like that. We're not looking to be YouTube famous. But there will be some sponsorship opportunities. We're going to be, as small businesses, we're still going to keep a focus on small business, the regional area. So that includes the Metro East, the St. Louis area, and, just our immediate spitting distance, so to speak, So we're going to be offering those opportunities. We're not going to hawk them on the show, but just reach out to us if you're interested in that. And you can send us a message to the Facebook page. And just to let you know, we reach anywhere between 200 to 300 viewers a week right now, and we're looking for that number to grow. So there will be people that see your name on our show for a period of time, if not throughout the whole show. So those are some opportunities. Something else that you're going to notice is we're going to keep the shows themed. And even if an entire show is not themed, we're going to be able to start breaking it down into segments. And we want to make it more manageable for us to plan for, and we want to make it more manageable for you to watch and for you to relate to, and just kind of stay focused on topics. That may mean that some shows are longer than others. It may mean that some shows may be a little shorter than others. Ultimately, you guys are going to drive the show, so we do want to bring that on from there. Speaking of sponsors, I do want to give a shout out to Weather Vane Ice Cream here in the Granite City area and in Bethalto. 2 locations here in Granite City, one in Bethalto, And a lot of people think ice cream, they think, well, summer and spring, right? Not so with Weather Vane. The great thing with them is they have a fantastic fall menu that they've got lined up. Check out their website, give them a call and see what they've got going on. But their soups are fantastic. They have like regular food there as well. If you like tacos, their tacos are fantastic as well. So weathervaneicecream.com, check them out. Jason Brown, local owner. We went to school with the guy. Couldn't ask for a better guy. So I think with that being said, that's kind of what we got coming your way. And,
wait,
go for it.
You forgot the random thought of the week.
Oh, that's right.
Here it is. I'm going to bust this one out on you.
Take it away.
Is there really any worth in one-ply toilet paper?
There is if you wrap a whole bunch of it around your hand.
Bingo. So what it's used for, there's really not a use for it, in my opinion. And that's your random thought of the week, kids.
Take that and chew on it for a while.
Oh, yeah. No, not the one ply.
No, you don't want to chew on the one ply?
No.
I'm just saying I want to chew on the two ply, but all right. I think with that being said, random thought of the week is something that we're going to be alternating from time to time. Feel free to share yours. We're happy to see it. And so, we're going to bring on our friend Nick right now. Drum roll, please. There he is. Mr. Nick Drago. How you doing tonight? Uh-oh. Nick, you're on mute. You got your mic muted. Oh. That's okay. It's happened to me quite a few times also.
Yeah,
there we
that
go.
Should do it, right? Okay.
We got it. We're good.
Well, I'm doing good.
Good.
Scott, there's no value in one ply.
Thank you.
None at all.
That was my thought.
I think we all three share that same opinion. No value in one ply.
No.
Good to be back, fellas.
It is. It's good to have you. It's good to be back.
Yeah. So we're tonight's show, our welcome back show, we're actually going to be kind of kicking off with one of the biggest conspiracies of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there have been a multitude of books written on this. There have been movies made on this. There have been documentaries made on the movies and documentaries made on, the films and everything else. And, and that, of course, is the JFK assassination. And, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. And there's, for some of you who may not know, there's a good fact fiction book that was written by Stephen King called 11/22/63.
Good book.
And with today being 11/21/63, what better date and what better way to open up our welcome back show than to, talk about this? Yes.
When did we go back 58 years in time? Because you said
okay, you caught me.
Okay.
I caught that after I said 11/21/2021.
Oh, okay. Whew.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. So anyway, with that being said, I am actually going to, Nick, I'm going to let you kind of open the discussion with this and just kind of, give us some thoughts on it, maybe, and then Mac, you can give us some historical background on this, or if you guys want to do vice versa, if Mac, you want to do the historical background first, and then Nick, you can give us some thoughts, and then we can just kind of carry the conversation on from there.
Okay.
With the way I'm sinking in my couch here to kind of lead off, I really feel like short. Everybody's sitting on chairs, and I'm like in my couch, like no, this is actually my wheelhouse. I've read a ton of books. I've watched almost every documentary more than once on this stuff. Everybody has their own theory, but what I really would like to touch on, and this, is not what everybody's theory is what makes you come to that theory. Everybody has their in theory, but what evidence, that you've read, what you've watched makes you come to that. And that, I think that's really interesting point of everything, because there are so many opinions. There are so many theories of what happened and why it happened. I think that's a key point there that people really don't. Everybody knows what happened, but why? And that's what I would really like to touch on and get both of your opinions on tonight.
So, okay.
Go ahead, Nick, please.
I can throw it out there about why I think. I mean, there's so many different theories, because there's, some people think it was, not to get ahead, but some people think it was the mafia. Some people think it was CIA. Some people think it was Oswald. Some people think, that it was, like a rogue faction in the government, or, but I mean, gosh, there's some people that even think it was Jackie. I mean, serious. It goes,
Mhm.
Oh wow,
they go
that I
all
didn't
over the
hear.
place.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, no one really likes to entertain that one, and I don't really. I mean,
No.
I've never really believed any of that, really.
No.
I do have kind of an unpopular opinion on it in a way, like a theory, not a theory, but just something I see in it. And I'll get to that later.
Mhm.
But to talk about to the idea that nothing was all that it seemed happened right away, right after it happened in 1963. And there was so much talk about it. And I believe Bobby Kennedy probably would have been president had he not been killed.
Mhm.
And I think he probably would have opened up an investigation into it. But nonetheless, in the 70s, I guess around 75, 76, there was the House Select Committee on Assassinations that was formed to investigate it. And they investigated for a few years. And in 1979, before the House Select Committee on Assassinations was formed, the Warren Commission was formed. That was kind of immediately. The Warren Commission was formed, and nobody really believed that. Not nobody, but there were a lot of people had problems with that. And the single bullet theory being that one bullet caused wounds in, like, 2 wounds in John F. Kennedy, and I think one in Governor John Connolly.
Mhm.
Now that's right there. That's kind of that was a red flag for me when I learned about that. And but then what's interesting about is that the Warren Commission was formed, and that is a official government document, or investigative report. And so is the report from the House Select Committee on Assassinations, but they contradict each other.
Mhm.
Because in 1979, the committee said that it was based on scientific acoustic evidence. They concluded that JFK had probably been killed by, there was 4 shots and 2 gunmen.
Mhm.
And so that totally contradicts the Warren Commission report. That's probably the only report, or the probably only time that we have 2 reports on the same thing, and they're both official government reports and investigations, and they contradict each other.
So it's interesting, Nick, that we hear a lot about the Warren Commission. Like that's the one that is primarily taught in schools, but we don't hear much about the other
Oh,
report.
right, yeah. But I mean, well, I think the Warren Commission, a lot of people were satisfied by that, and
Yeah.
and there was in the House Select Committee, that was about 10 years later, 12 years later, you know what I mean, when that was formed. And yeah, it wasn't fresh in the minds of people, and of course it does kind of admit that the first group of people got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because anytime you have quote unquote more evidence, then they can refer back to that. Like, well, we have technology now that we didn't have then. We can analyze things a little differently than we did 10 years ago, 12 years ago, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, even just like watching I believe the Zapruder film, watching that, I mean, that alone contradicts, the visual evidence that's right there that was caught on film contradicts the whole single shooter theory, and
right,
completely,
Mhm.
and completely,
you can see it does.
Yeah, and and like you mentioned, to get us to buy into the single bullet theory, and there were, I think, 7 different wounds caused by one bullet. I mean, it's like how stupid do they have to think that we as a people are,
Well,
to push this off on us?
Well, because when the Warren Commission report was made and released, the Zapruder film hadn't been seen by the public. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and they didn't count on the internet either.
Right. So, Mac and Nick, what are your, like, if you had to narrow it down to what you firmly believe happened that day, what would both of you say um, would be okay? This is what I believe happened, and here's why. Nick, let's start with you if you don't mind.
Well, I'll just cut to the chase now. I think that to kind of answer Mac in the beginning when he says, why do you think this? What makes you think this?
Mm-hmm.
One is the single bullet theory. The other is that Hoover, at the end of the day, said it was a lone nut. There was no investigation, and J. Edgar Hoover was just finalized. Nope, it was a lone gunman. No. Yeah. So it's kind of the hard-headedness of that, and and then it's Jack Ruby, that whole thing, and which there's a lot of meat on those bones, I'll tell you, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jack
Um,
Ruby. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, actually, but no. But that's the why. There's just too many questions about it, So, but what I think happened was, I think it wasn't the mafia. I don't think the mafia could have pulled it off. I think they could have pulled it off, but not gotten away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only force entity that could have done that was the CIA. And Kennedy wanted to dismantle the CIA and wanted to split it up into a million pieces, I think were his exact words. But I'll tell you, I see something in the Zapruder film that I said it was kind of an unpopular thing, but I think it's frame 314 is the final headshot. And there is a gun. There looks like an incendiary device went off in the car
Right
in front of him. If you watch this, and it looks like a gun flash to me. Now there was only one person sitting in front of him that could have done that, and that was the Governor John Connolly, who was also shot, as we know, or as we've been told. But I believe Connolly was shot. I believe he was accidentally shot. I believe he knew that Kennedy was going to be assassinated. He was not a friend. He did not like John F. Kennedy. I don't know. It's weird, but I can't tell myself I don't see something really weird in that part of the film. And it's a fact, that the Zapruder film has been cut to shreds. There's only blood on one frame of the entire, only one. That's 1/10 of a second. So it had to have been edited, because if I was shot in the head in front of you right now, you would see blood longer than a tenth of a second, and it's totally gone after that. It's really weird. And there's also what looks like a trajectory above his head, and like a puff of smoke in the car. I mean, if you watch this is what I see. And a lot of people talked about two people that had seen it. News people, journalists that reported it on television that day, said that he was hit in the front of the head. Now that was fresh in their minds. You know what I mean? One was Abraham Zapruder himself. When he was he was giving an interview, he's like, and then I saw he was hit right in the head,
Right. And when you watch that film footage, you see that, and this is going to get graphic for some people, but you see gray matter, I'll tone it down a little bit, coming out of the back of Kennedy's head. You don't, and a shot from behind where Oswald was supposedly at, or allegedly at, that would, it doesn't make sense that a bullet wound moving from the back would cause, an explosion to the back of the head and not to the front of the head. And
right.
Now there is a theory that it was a Secret Service agent whose firearm had accidentally gone off, and that it was a cover up for that, because of the fear of conspiracy, or fear of a attempted coup within the government or something like that. Are you familiar with that theory, and just kind of what are your thoughts on that?
I have heard of that. Now I also heard of the theory that it was the. I have heard of that, but I don't know much about it. I vaguely remember hearing about that, but I also heard that it was the limousine driver, and that was just kind of silly, because I mean, and when you watch it and you watch the limousine driver, he does turn his head, and then when he turns his head, you see like something that looks like it's reflecting metal, but no, it's the sunshine off the guy's head sitting next to him.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. And I think sometimes theories are created to throw people off and make people look silly that are searching for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And we talked a little about that on the 9/11 show.
That's what I think is behind QAnon, that whole thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Mac,
I don't want to.
Mac, your thoughts on that as far as and I guess like Nick did, answer the why question, and then give us your thought of what you actually believe happened that day and following, and then why you believe that.
And actually, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to give you pieces of evidence like Nick did to tell you why I think this way, and then I'll get to it. First off, what you have to think of is the parade route. The parade route was changed because if you think of it from a Secret Service standpoint, they're not going to slow down to almost a crawl to turn a corner that goes past 90 degrees. It almost goes 110, if I'm not, maybe 110, 120.
The Elm Street, yes.
Right. There's no way in the world that a Secret Service motorcade, even in the 60s in and of itself, is going to allow that to happen. I mean, if you just think of the tall buildings and the speed that they will be going to make that turn, it's just unfathomable to think that the Secret Service, number one, would allow that.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to where you said the acoustic test, I agree with that, but there was more than 6 shots. If you actually spoke, there was actually a witness that was in front of the motorcade. Let's say you're looking at it this way, that was off to the right of it, actually got hit with shrapnel from the curb from a gunshot.
Yeah.
It cut their cheek. I don't know if you've heard that.
I have, yes.
And there were people in the park, on the grassy knoll, even on the overpass that said there was crossfire coming from everywhere. Now, I've heard, and if you look, like you said, if you look at the Zapruder film, how the trajectory when he's hit sends him back and almost to his left, which tells me it either came from the knoll where people said they saw someone dressed I don't know if you've ever heard of Badge Man.
Oh, yes.
But what tells me is there's people that they saw standing on the overpass, which makes more sense to me from a trajectory point of view. I've also heard that Oswald was in the building. He was taking a lunch, but there was a gunman underneath the floor he was on.
Huh.
And the gun was actually planted.
I've heard of that.
After he left. Something else that brings me to say that is once they were shot, Connolly turns around and says, "They are going to kill us."
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which immediately tells me that he knows there's more than one, which lends to your point, Nick, about he knew it was going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I've seen it, what you said, and I'm glad you brought that up, which looks like a gun being pointed from the limousine driver. I'll have to go back and look at it because I didn't see the sun reflect off the gentleman's head that you spoke of. And I also don't think it's driver. I think it's the person.
I wasn't saying it, I thought it was the driver. I want to be clear on that.
Right. No, I know what you said. I thought it was.
I'm serious.
For
a long time.
And that's quite possible. But the way Connolly turns kind of makes you think that. After he hears the first shot, he turns.
And then he turns back as soon as Jack is hit. As soon as Kennedy is hit.
Right.
He immediately. It's almost as if he turns it with his arm, and then yeah. Now,
Chuck, you did bring this up to where Mrs. Kennedy crawled out the back of the limousine. She was I'm going to try to say this as delicately as I can. She was not trying to get away. If you can kind of elaborate in your own mind what I mean by that. She was trying to recover things.
Right.
I also find it very peculiar that there was no Secret Service on his limo
So
by their standards. Now, adding up all that automatically lends to the credibility of the Warren Commission being thrown out the window in my mind.
Yeah.
So you take it to the next step and say, okay, Oswald was a patsy. I believe that 100%. Just from his affiliations through Russia, through the Cuba flyers he was handing out in New Orleans. My thought process is it was the CIA and the military-industrial complex because, number one, as Nick said, Kennedy was going to dismantle the CIA and, in his own words, scattered to the ashes of history.
Yeah.
He was going to pull out of Vietnam. He did not agree with it. He sent military observers over there for a specific reason to gauge what was going on. He was going to pull out. The military-industrial complex cannot have that. Now, if you remember seeing the hobos as the cleanly shaven hobos.
Oh yeah.
One of those pictures looked very oddly familiar to someone who later came into office in the late 80s, early 90s. That same person was a member of the CIA at the time. So, you throw all that together, and that's just my opinion based upon everything I've read, everything that I've seen. It wasn't one lone gunman.
Right.
And even if it was, per se, let's just concentrate on that. Let's just say people accept that theory, which a majority of people do not. 3 shots in, I want to say 5 seconds, maybe 6, give or take, on a bolt-action rifle. Now, a long bullet like that is not going to come clean, and at the risk of sounding graphic, Kennedy would not have had a face.
Yeah.
Right, coming from that direction, absolutely.
Right. So that's just things to me that, as Nick mentioned, the biggest piece was the acoustic that they had. That's huge because if you listen to it, there's not 3 shots. There's much more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen on YouTube, you used to be able to find a lot more on YouTube, but there was, it was also captured on a policeman's radio, the shots.
I did hear that too, on one of the motorcycle cops.
The guy that you said, one of the hobos, was that in the CIA, was that Criswell? Was that his name?
The one I'm talking about was HW.
Oh, yes. And you know what's interesting is George says he doesn't remember where he was on November 22nd, 1963. Now, we all, that was their 9/11.
Right.
You know what I mean? We all know where we were, and they all know. How would somebody in government that age not know where they? I don't buy that.
No, not once. I don't.
Sometimes it's what people don't say.
Exactly. You have to look. You have to look beyond the words. And things that make sense to us that just don't sit well.
Right. I think we've all seen the meme where the little puppet's looking side-eyed. Like he sees something and then looks side-eyed and moves on, going about his business. And, it's just like, I saw this, but no, I didn't see this, So, I think there's a lot of that. One of the questions that I have, so, for me to chime in on, like, what I believe, I do, in my mind, I believe that our government was involved. It may have been the CIA because, from what I understand, not only was it Vietnam that Kennedy was looking to pull out of, but also adjusting the entire Federal Reserve system, and making changes to the Federal Reserve. And I mean, that's the money right there. And we're always told, follow the money. So when you add the military, dollars that are in there, I mean, there's big money in war. We all know that. You add that he's about to, start making some changes to the Federal Reserve Bank and how it operates. I mean, there's a lot of motive there for a lot of different people to get involved in this. And then also back then there was a huge communist movement. We had people that, some in the flower power generation, they were for communism and socialism and things like that. I mean, that's kind of what they wanted. Kennedy was not like that. There were a lot of things that Kennedy was working on that were about to, change the way of life for a lot of people and change the power of a lot of people. So, I'm kind of along the lines that, I agree that Oswald was, he was a patsy. He was set up. I think that he was. I definitely think he was involved in it. I think he knew the plan as to what he was going to get involved in, but I don't think that he knew that he was going to be the one to take the fall for it.
Right. Yeah, I
And
don't think that either.
yeah, and I really believe that the whole Jack Ruby thing, coming up and just shooting Oswald in front of everybody. I mean, that wasn't even, they didn't even try to hide that.
Mhm.
In a police garage.
Right. Now,
Unbelievable.
tell me about mopping something up really quickly.
Mhm.
I mean, Oswald was not given any kind of special protection. He was out there open for every. I mean, you watch the video from, that time, and you watch the video of Ruby shooting Oswald. It's like he was not protected at all. Where anybody could have walked up there, and that was completely and totally planned. And I honestly
Right.
believe that the JFK assassination plays right into the Robert Kennedy assassination. I think it was all kind of a way to ensure that the Kennedy family, because I think this even goes back to Joe Kennedy. I mean, like, Joe Kennedy was a prick. I mean, let's be
Oh, yeah.
honest about it.
He was not a good boy.
No, he wasn't. And I think it just kind of goes into like, we're going to get rid of the Kennedys because, Joe Kennedy was like, he was a pusher. He got what he wanted to get done. And,
Yeah.
if we're going to get rid of Jack Kennedy, we got to get rid of, Bobby Kennedy also, because we just can't, we can't take the chance that any Kennedy is going to, get back in office, because I can almost promise you that Bobby Kennedy would have been, president of the United States.
Yeah.
So, Mac, you got something to say?
Something I want to add, and since you're on that point, Bobby Kennedy was murdered, for lack of a better word, by those same entities. But I really believe the mob did have a hand in that one.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that was his disdain for organized crime and the Chicago Mafia seething because Joe Kennedy told them, "You help my guy get Illinois, we'll pay you back." Well, they paid him back by having Bobby Kennedy, the Attorney General, and trying to take down organized crime. And that in the 60s, that's really not going to sit well with you.
No. Yeah, that I'm totally with you on that. And so they were like, and that was Joe Kennedy had his, he was in bed with the mafia, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was his doing. And then the boys got in, they were like, no, no, we're going to go after these pricks, and excuse me.
Yeah, no, I mean, and there's really no way, there's really no other way to talk about these people, because you can't be nice about it, and you can't sugarcoat it either, because we're talking about this is like conspiracy at the highest levels.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're talking about people being involved in this, that, there were other people who knew about this in government that, stayed tight-lipped, and just like they do everything else in Washington, for me, just go ahead, please.
No, there are people. There's a thing about like the people that were very close to Kennedy were a lot of mysterious deaths. You know what I mean? People that knew things. Well, Jack Ruby died of cancer. Like, he went mad. You know what I mean? Like, in prison.
Yeah.
And by the way, he never gave any interviews. He probably was not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
He made a recording where he said, and he was in a courtroom, and he said something that people will never know the truth about the Kennedy assassination. And this was released, like years later, never all this. Well, when he was walking out of that recording, out of that courtroom from saying that, somebody stuck a microphone in his face, journalist, and was like, "Can you tell me anything? And who killed John Kennedy?" And he's just like, "Ask the guy in office right now who killed John Kennedy."
Mm-hmm.
And that was LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Johnson knew all about it. Johnson knew all about it.
Oh yeah, it was.
Kennedy was kind of forced. Kennedy was forced by his party to select LBJ to deliver Texas, is what.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, they didn't get along. You ever seen when LBJ? This really gets under my skin. When he's inaugurated on Air Force One, if he's standing next to Jackie, who, and he turns to this man after he, swears himself in. He turns to this congressman, and the congressman winks and smiles at him.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the back of LBJ's face, and it looks like his cheek is up in a smile, but his face is contorted into a smile. But I mean, the congressman that is winking at him and smiling.
Mm-hmm.
It's sick. You know what I mean? He's standing next to the widow who still has, blood on her dress. And
I mean, even if you want to expand upon that, the doctors at the hospital weren't even allowed to perform the autopsy there. They quickly grabbed his body, ushered him away. I mean, and they were told, "Don't you say anything that you saw here."
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, and there was a big fight over jurisdiction of it too. I mean, and finally the feds just came in and off he went.
I wonder how that would play out today. People are just, too many cell phones clicking, too many recording devices, too many people blogging and talking and sharing information. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that they would be able to get away with it as cleanly as they did back then.
No. Right.
I do think that should something like that happen now, I don't think that they would be able to cover it up. And I say they as in whoever they were at the time. I mean, there are all kinds of, theories that, that come around, and you'll have people that will say, well, I know exactly who did it. Well, no, you don't, but we can all have our theories about it. But I just don't think that today you would get away with it as cleanly as they did back then, because you want to talk about, and I had a clip I meant to play earlier before we started, but it was the Walter Cronkite clip, where he's like, I tell you what, let me go ahead and I'm going to play this real quick, and then I'll go into this. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring it up, and then.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
So the reason I wanted to go ahead and play that clip is because I think that there's a very important difference in the reaction that Walter Cronkite has when he announces that the president's been pronounced dead, right before he announces that Vice President Johnson is being sworn in office. The man almost comes to tears. He has to stop for a minute. He has to collect himself, and then he has to deliver the news. And I say that because there's a definite moral difference at that time in journalism than there is now. And I think that if something like that happened now, the way everything is sensationalized, it would be a big story, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that we would have the emotional investment in that now, which is why I think that there are more and more people that wouldn't, take it as, straightforward as it was taken back then. And I'm kind of curious as to, what your thoughts are as Nick and Mac both about how the media kind of there were fewer networks back then, so they kind of almost had better control over information back then than they do now. So, like, what are your thoughts when we talk about, if something like that were to happen now, why they wouldn't be able to get away with it, or why they wouldn't be able to cover it up more, besides the cell phone society that we live in?
Nick, go ahead.
It's hard. I mean, we just live in the age of information. But besides all that, like you asked, I think people are less trusting now, and people ask more questions now. I think, that is due to, living in the age of information and having all this information at our fingertips. But But also, I think it's because of things like this event, like the Kennedy assassination and the Warren Commission and single bullet theory, and things being put in our face that we just find hard to believe. And so after a few, this happens again and again with 9/11, and I have a list,
Right.
but I mean, I think and people, ask a lot of questions, and I think that's my reason. I think people are less trusting of the official story than they used to be.
Mac, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I do have something. I think back in that age, the news guys were trusted because they actually delivered news. They didn't deliver their opinions with it.
So true.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a huge key point as opposed to media now. Now, Chuck, you asked how would the media react now, and my answer to that would be, it really depends on who died. I hate to be that nonchalant about it, but certain news media outlets, if Donald Trump died tomorrow, they'd also almost be in a celebratory mood. If that same group of people, if Bill Clinton were to die tomorrow, it would be a 24-hour devotion. And that's where we are now as opposed to then. People have really gotten away from journalism and into more opinionated thoughts masked as journalism, if that makes sense. Guys, I would even go into the late 70s. You had Walter Cronkite, you had Edward Morrow, you had all these people this is what happened. They would not give their sides on it and what they thought. This is the news. As Walter Cronkite used to sign off all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that in and of itself right there is there you have it, and there you are. It was news. People watched and consumed news, not opinion, and that is the major difference between then and now.
So yeah, that it makes people less trusting of what they're hearing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So John Miller, John, thanks for tuning in tonight. John says it's called the agenda. He corrected himself over here. The agenda setting theory. The media doesn't tell you what to think, but what to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that I've got to disagree with that a little bit, because I think that the media kind of makes it a point to tell you what to think. Like, they don't want you to think about anything anymore, that they more want to tell you what to think, and then they grab onto that. And this is both sides. I'm not talking Republican, Democrat, conservative, because they've all got what they want you to think. And so you definitely have to seek beyond your normal viewing pleasures, if you will, to find the truth. And I tell people all the time, I look a little bit here and I look a little bit there, and somewhere in the middle the truth overlaps a little bit. There's always a little bit of that questioning that goes on there or whatever. Like there might be a couple spots, but yeah, I kind of tend to think and believe that we live in a society now that tells you what you should think, and that you're wrong if you don't think a particular way. And so John says when he mentions agenda setting theory, he's referring to the past, not news nowadays. Okay, that I can get behind a little bit. But in speaking to even back then, and Nick, we've talked about this a little bit on the show before about the New World Order and things like that. I mean, this is crap that's been going on for centuries, and when you think about it back then, you still have to kind of ask yourself, are what we're being told, is it the truth? And then how do we discover that truth? And will we ever really even know the truth, or do we have to live with these theories?
You just have to believe what we believe, really. Yeah. Yeah.
So John mentions also that there were actually moments when Walter Cronkite broke away from just reporting, like when he stepped out from behind the desk to say Vietnam was going wrong.
That's a good point, but he actually had proof that it was. It just wasn't conjecture. It wasn't his opinions based upon the way he was feeling at the moment. He actually, hey, this is wrong, and this is why I think it's wrong, but I have the proof to show the American people or whomever, this is what's going on. I'm not faking this. This is what's happening.
So, Nick, if you had to pick a particular thing that, because the question was asked earlier, the why, well, why was he assassinated? And we've talked about a couple of things on that. And Mac, obviously, I'd like your opinion on this as well. But if you had to say what was kind of the tipping point where, whether it was the CIA or whomever that organized this, what would you say was the most prominent sticking point here that just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb?
Well, I think it was that he wanted to split up the CIA, that he just didn't want to get into war. I hate to take Scott's answers, but I think there's that. But I also think there's one other thing, and I just want to throw it in there to make it fun tonight. There's this theory that he also wanted to reveal the alien technology that was basically found in the Roswell Desert, or reverse engineered from artifacts found in the crashed saucer in Roswell, New Mexico. There supposedly exists a MJ12 document that talks all about it. But it's this document. It is called Into Question. But basically, this whole theory surmises that when he challenged the space program to get to the moon, he wanted to reveal the alien technology, and he was told that he could not. So he thought, well, you can't get to the moon with a rocket, but you can get to the moon with that stuff. So I'm going to force your hand at revealing this information. I'm going to challenge you to get to the moon by the end of the decade. He knew they couldn't do it with a rocket. I'm not saying this is just a theory. I'm not saying what I think or anything.
Sure. No.
And so they got rid of Kennedy, and they faked going to the moon. Now, like I said, I don't really think we faked that. I believe we faked the footage, but not. I think we probably went to the moon, but we didn't go in a rocket. I think we probably went in something else that they didn't want to show the rest of the world.
Gotcha. So do you think
there's that?
Do you think that technology could have been what does like the space shuttle and things like that, or is that just kind of a whole other show in and of itself?
Yeah, it is. I'm you know what? I'm not a scientific kind of person, so I can't even go there with it. So I don't have a really hard theory on what I think about the moon. I think it's weird we haven't gone back, or maybe we have and they don't want us to know that they've gone back. I don't know,
I'm with you on
but
that.
I'll tell you this, I do not believe the footage, and I'm sorry. I wish I did. I wish that was pictures of the moon, but I don't believe that.
And if you actually listen, Buzz Aldrin had an interview with Conan O'Brien one time where he kind of slyly put that out there that footage was manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Mr. Stanley Kubrick was behind that, to be honest with you. And that is a whole other show, man. That's a fun show. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
There are a lot of people who are on board with that, the Stanley Kubrick thing. And so, I think that there's definitely been some hornswoggling going on there, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like, why haven't we gone back? Why do we not have like bases on the moon and things like that? Why are we not using the moon as a jumping point? But again, that's kind of a whole other, show.
You're getting off tangent, Hill.
Yeah.
But really, you had asked me about like what is the main reason why I think it went down in Dallas and all that, and I really think it was that he wasn't a fan of the CIA, but mainly the war. Mainly the military-industrial complex. Yeah. But there is a theory that he also wanted to, by revealing the alien technology, it's not just revealing that happened and they were here and all that, but this technology, it means we would not be reliant on fossil fuels anymore. You know what I mean? And so that is that's a thorn in a lot of sides there. So,
well, both things you mentioned go back to money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's always it. Always.
It's always right.
Yeah.
Follow the
Mac,
money.
your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. And actually, to Nick's point, that him and I both kind of ride that same line. I would even go further and say the alien technology I had never heard of makes perfect sense. I would even go beyond that and say the reason they didn't want it, you're right in the middle of a Cold War. The Russians had just gotten the technology for the thermonuclear device, for crying out loud. What would they have done with alien technology if they were able to advance on it quicker than us? So I mean that your point there makes sense, and just to expand upon that and make it more,
yeah, that makes it more threatening,
right?
For that to get out, sure,
Right
at that time, yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that within the next 2 years, like they're supposed to release all those documents. Or is that time? I thought it was 30 years, but maybe it's 60 years.
They extended it longer.
Oh,
Did
the
they?
Kennedy thing?
Yeah.
They almost had Trump. Trump was going to release it.
He was close.
No, he asked them to release it, but they didn't.
Right.
And then he was going to. They were going to release something. They agreed to release something, but I don't know that they ever did.
I think there's
he went to full
less,
Monty, and they said no.
I think there's less redaction on some of the things than there was before. But you're right. He did want to release everything to make everything transparent, and they said which tells me as soon as it gets out, the government's foundation of the principles that this country are founded upon are going to come crumbling to the ground, and you're not going to have any kind of order anymore.
Maybe the truth will come out in 100 years.
Right.
Yeah, when everyone's
really
gone and their
think,
grandchildren are gone, and
I really think we won't be here to see it. I really do.
Oh no, I don't.
No one. Yeah, no one that was alive during that time or close to that time will probably ever see that.
Well, I don't. Did you know that the FBI is looking for Jimmy Hoffa right now?
Still?
Yeah.
You hear about that the other day?
No,
I did. They're
in I think in New Jersey, right? In a dump, it was an old dump, and that they're looking for him. That supposedly he was put in an oil drum, and it was buried 10 feet in this junkyard.
No
so
kidding.
the FBI is there right now with some guys, and they're looking around.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, some guy on his deathbed gave them that tip or something, didn't he?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I remember reading that story and hearing about it on the news also.
But I think he said that it was his dad that told him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't really the guy that was there, but it was, or maybe it was as a kid. I don't remember.
Well, there's got to be some credibility to it. I mean, because they're not just going to go willy-nilly and search a random yard, or a random trash pile. So
people take credit for things they don't do. You know what I mean? Like they get BS tips and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's weird. Why would you commit? The Black Dahlia. You ever heard of that murder case?
Yeah.
40s.
Yeah.
People, like some 20 people confessed to that crime. Isn't that weird?
Just for the notoriety.
Just to have their name in the paper or something.
Yeah.
But why would you want your name in the paper for that?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that last week when I was in LA. I almost asked our tour guide, a little bit about that.
Man, that's a book for you. Black Dahlia Avenger.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we could talk about that one sometime.
Yeah, I've read a couple.
Before we do all these shows, you're going to have to give me a bunch of books to read to prep for this.
Well, one of our shows, Nick, we talked about this a little bit. One of the shows that, we're going to talk about coming up, just to give our audience, listeners, and viewers a little bit of a tease, is the Lenin prophecies. And we talked a little bit about that. And basically, there was this, idea that John Lennon and Paul McCartney and the Beatles, first of all, made a pact with the devil, which is why they pretty much became infamous overnight. And you could go on to conspiracy theories about the Lennon assassination as well. So one of these Sundays we're going to do a show on that in particular. Mac, you look like you had something to add on to that.
No, I was scratching my elbow.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of Beatles. There's a lot of Beatles conspiracy. There's Paul McCartney had died in
1966 got in a car accident.
Yeah,
and
there's that. There's they sold their souls. There's the Lennon thing. Yeah, man. Good.
The McCartney thing blows my mind, because when you start digging into that and you start looking at pictures of McCartney, it's like, it's two different guys. I mean,
and what's funny about
their heads are shaped different.
They are.
And their eyes are different.
The funny part about that, there's two things. First off, if you listen to McCartney pre-accident and after, you can tell the difference. Second
Yes.
off, after the car accident, they had to grow a mustache because of his lip was different.
So they all made it a look.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you notice, all their album covers, their faces are not. There's not really like a good photographic thing on them. You know, like on I think Rubber Soul, their faces are like distorted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always some trickery there. And then there's Sgt. Pepper's, where there's 2 sets of Beatles on there, and it says grave and. Whoa,
there's a
man.
lot of
Yeah, let's
a lot of
talk about that
symbolism there.
sometime.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
start
clues
talking
in
about
their
it
music
now and never
also.
stop.
Yeah, a lot of clues in their music also. Well, Nick, man, hey, thank you so much for being
Appreciate
on the
it.
show tonight, man. I'm looking so forward to having you on future shows.
Looking forward to it as well.
So yeah, so I mean, appreciate you being on here tonight. And folks, just to let you know, Nick, I'm going to keep plugging this until we're ready. Nick is also about to be an accomplished author. So Nick, when you get that book out there, we're gonna plug the hell out of it, because we definitely want
Right
people
on.
reading your book and looking to hear some excerpts from your book. And so yeah, we're all looking forward to that. So keep us posted.
Signed copies.
That's right. Signed copies. So awesome, Nick. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
You're welcome. It's great to be here. You guys
Have
take
a great
care.
Thanksgiving, Nick.
You too.
Thank you. You both have a great holiday. All of you have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk to
you.
y'all soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
So speaking of holidays, we do have a show coming up that we had planned for the 28th.
Right.
And so, as we mentioned earlier, in I guess we can call this a broadcast, can't we? Can we call it a broadcast?
We can call it whatever we want.
That's right. We're going to call it a broadcast tonight.
Absolutely.
Speaking of shows, we did have a show planned for next week. Anna's memorial service is going to be next Sunday evening. So,
we think that's more important to us.
Yeah, and we did not think. We did not want to, cancel the show next week, but we're going to, first of all, so we can pay our respects to our friend and her family. But we will be coming back with you on December 5th. And Mac, did we decide to go ahead and push the Thanksgiving show back to the 5th?
Sure, sounds good. I don't
Is
think
that
we
what we talked
discussed that, but that works.
Yeah, we'll bring it to you, and then we'll tease it to you guys also, beforehand, so you know what to expect. December 19th, we're going to be having a small business show, just like we did last year. If you have a small business or someone that has a small business, we are actually doing spots on the show at no cost. We want you to promote your business, your product, your service, whatever it is that you do. And we just want to get you some business. If it's last minute gift ideas or anything like that, just reach out to us at the show page. That's facebook.com/Mac and Chuck. And, we want to schedule you some time on there and give you the opportunity just to, pawn your wares and make other people aware of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So and I think with that, Mac, was there anything else did I forget something?
Did we decide on the 12th? Because you went from the 5th to the 19th.
Yes. I don't have that paper in front of me.
No, that's fine.
Shame on me.
You know what? You and I really need to utilize the Facebook page more. So we'll throw up the list of upcoming shows on there.
I think that's a great idea.
Then we'll then tonight after we get off, I'll throw up the not really throw up, but I'll throw up the random thought of the week. Let you guys comment on that. Give us your random thoughts. We really want to. I know we said in the past we really want to make this more interactive. And in all honesty, Chuck, I don't think you or I really took that to heart. So we really, in this not rebranding, but this retooling, this relaunch, we really want to utilize that and make it interactive.
Right. So, all right. And we did have a new intro today. Let us know what you thought about it. If you like it, cool. If you hate it, let us know.
I dug it.
You dug it?
I dug
it. You dig?
Dude.
You dig, yo? So, all right. Again, thank you very much to our friend Nick for coming on the show. Definitely appreciated. Follow us at macandchuck.com, or you can follow us at facebook.com/macandchuck. Kim, glad you joined us tonight. We appreciate you being on there.
Most importantly,
yeah.
Hope everybody has a safe Thanksgiving with their family and really enjoys it.
Yep. And I think with that being said, happy Thanksgiving. And I'm going to say it early. Happy holidays to you guys, because the holiday season is upon us. And yeah, we'll see you guys not next week, but week after next.
Have a great time. Have a great week.
Have a good one, guys.